Fallout 1 and 2's combat was notoriously known for being fair and balanced. Sorry, I'm a complete dog shit. The turn-based, highly stats and RNG combat of these games is more a test in patience and how many broken keyboards you can afford before uninstalling the game than actually being fun. But it had a level of depth that was just unmatched by Bethesda's first crack at Fallout in 2008 with Fallout 3. It had this cool 3D VATS thing, which is a really innovative way to do turn-based combat in a first-person shooter, but apart from that, I mean, well, there was some stuff. But 2 years later, Black Isle Studios would reform under a new banner to make a spin-off Fallout game called Fallout New Vegas, and in this, they would do Fallout right, but most importantly, they would do Fallout's combat right. So that's what we're talking about today, combat, because I really love it. The combat of New Vegas seems very simplistic on the surface level, but dig a little deeper and you'll see an intricate net of integrated gameplay designs and mechanics that all fit the express purpose of fun and role-playing and difficulty. Because boy oh boy, can this game be difficult. In terms of what changed between Fallout 3 and New Vegas, all you need to know for now is that they added ADS, meaningful perks, and more variety in literally everything. I always felt Bioshock and Fallout 1 and 2 were kind of similar in a way. They have these cool new worlds full of interesting lore and secrets and great stories, but actually playing the game makes me want to go find Atlantis in a bathtub using a toaster. While New Vegas is like, yo, we're all that, and got banging combat. Even if a game is miserable to play, having a lot of variety can still be enough for me to trudge through it. Bloodborne is brutal and a true tragedy as I play only to slay these totally crazy beasts that need to be destroyed for the safety of everyone. And not just because I really like the exploding hammer. New Vegas is one of my favorite games ever simply for its replay value, and a big part of this is the massive variety of weapons and armor. According to this one Reddit thread that I will not be fact-checking because I am lazy, New Vegas has a total of 187 different weapons without the DLC. Which is bananas. This variety also makes for a nice little reward. Killing a deathclaw is hard as balls, but then you get this sweet little claw that you can use to smack the flip out of everyone and their grandmas. Using different weapons completely changes how you play because they all have advantages but also drawbacks, which is a major factor most games don't ever implement properly. I am cannot English much help, please? You can run a gun with a submachine gun or go melee, which admittedly is a little bit harder. It might require some stealth or some heavy button mashing of the A and D keys, but maybe you've got arthritis, so you can't afford to be button mashing those keys, and for you, I recommend the Fat Man. Chuck it on and just pre-Geneva Convention everything. The variety in this game even extends to the different kinds of ammo you use. Your ammo type basically changes the damage threshold, which means you do more damage, unless they have a damage threshold, then I think you do less? As you can see, I have a deep understanding on this topic. But if ADS isn't your thing, the VAT system is added in for little baby gamers who can't hold a mouse because of their snot-covered hands. I don't really use VATs much because it doesn't have the same tension of an ADS battle. But with a few perks and a cheeky lock stat, the VAT system can make you feel like a real cowboy, whipping headshots and crippling limbs like it's your damn job. The VAT system makes for a more strategic approach to combat and lets you pick apart your enemies like a surgeon, deciding which limbs to cripple for life or just remove entirely. VATs can also act as a counter to the faster enemy types. But to counter this, VATs has accuracy, which means just because you click on the head doesn't mean the head's going to explode. Clicking on wings might mean they can't fly anymore, or clicking on legs means they're wheelchair bound for life. I don't know, it's all RNG. Clothing in games is usually more about looking cool than dynamically changing how you play the game. But if you can't tell by this point, Fallout New Vegas does it very differently. Clothing factors into your stats and also changes how you play. Light armor obviously makes you faster, but Spartan light armor lets you sneak around as a Spartan, tricking the other Spartans into thinking you're cool and down to chill. But no, you're here to slit Spartan throats. This personifies so much of New Vegas, so many of its features are double-sided. Most RPGs have light and heavy armor, but New Vegas adds in disguises and stat bonuses for even stuff outside of combat. The Witcher's armors basically all amount to small stat boosts and like little bonuses to magic and how well you can wield a spatula at a Sunday afternoon barbecue because boy oh boy, why does every piece of armor make me look like a middle-aged dad? But New Vegas is like, hey, you wear these glasses, you get smarter. How does it work? Negative stereotypes, that's how. The stat bonuses from armor are never anything massive, but the sheer range of them is just so cool. You can get bonuses to just about any special skill or special stat, or just straight damage resistance stuff, like plus 15 resistance to angry public servants. Fuck these guys. This makes clothing an integral part of combat, where a disguise or some rad resistance might be the difference between a game over screen or 5 more NCR dollars. It also needs to be stated that New Vegas has over 300 different pieces of clothing, hats, glasses, everything. It's insane. It makes for the biggest game of dress up with dolls, except this one has a rocket launcher and +1 intelligence. Even something as simple as throwing a punch is given this level of variety. The 4 main factions can all teach you an unarmed power move, which all have different properties and do like knockdown or knockback and all these different things. But it all depends on your stats.
Of course.
I think I just came. The combat of New Vegas is built into all parts of the game with real implications depending on your stats and abilities. In The Witcher 3, being able to walk into every building in the game without a loading screen is a technical masterpiece, but then all the perks are like, here's 2% faster attack speeds, or now you can make stronger potions. Like, wow, thank you. Can I make a potion that makes me not want to kill myself? While New Vegas does this so much better. It does have its fair share of straight stat boosts, but the boringness of the straight stat boosts are made up for simply because there's so many straight stat boosts. Like, yeah, there's 2% more rifle damage, but then there's the Lady Killer's perk, or as I like to call it, the Wife Beater's Wet Dream, where you do more damage to women because misogyny is cool. Even the straight stat boosts are made more interesting, like the Bloody Mess perk, which gives you 5% more damage, but also gives you a bunch of new killing animations to satisfy the voices inside your head. But aside from perks, the allocation of your special stats, which are the founding elements of character creation, write that down, you will need it later, also affect combat in a major way. There's the obvious stuff like endurance, which gives you more hit points, or agility, which gives you more stamina so you can become a that's god, or take the pacifist approach of running away like a scared little bitch. But there's also a lot more to the special system, the most interesting in my opinion being the luck stat. The luck stat can be pretty OP in New Vegas for reasons outside of combat, but in combat a high luck stat is the equivalent of having a guardian angel watching over your every move and maybe putting a little banana peel under your enemy's foot. Oh, whoops, you fell over. These are called enemy mishaps, which are a bunch of little funky things that can happen to the enemy, such as their gun jamming, or them falling over, or grenades literally exploding in their hands. And it all depends on that sweet luck stat. Enemy mishaps are a mysterious phenomenon though that seems to be forgotten to the population, because there's info on every little single piece of lore and story from the Fallout games, the whole Fallout series, but there's like one goddamn forum post on enemy mishaps. Like, I don't even know if they were in Fallout 3. But what I do know is that staring down the barrel of a gun and waiting for it to put out my lights, only to be saved by the holy RNG gods to jam the gun and save my worthless life, makes me want to hug the developers to death with love. Like perks, the trade system is a bunch of stat boosts you can pick at the start of the game, but instead of upgrades, they're nuanced. They give you bonuses, but at the same time all have weaknesses. In short, traits are like, look, you shoot faster, but sorry, now you have Parkinson's. The small frame trait gives you +1 agility, but also means you didn't drink enough milk as a kid. Now your bones are brittle and weak and break. Like all the time. Traits make the game way more interesting, and it also means you can specialize into a certain kind of build much easier, which if handled correctly can make combat easier, but mostly just worse. An example of how powerful traits can be is with the Logan's Loopholes trait, which makes you immune to all addictions and also makes chems last twice as long. So you can stack every single piece of alcohol, drug, or stealth boy you can find. Then adding on the chemist perk, which makes all those 3 last another 50% longer. And finally taking the fast shot trait, which lets you shoot 20% faster. Equip a minigun and now you are an invisible and unstoppable minigun meth head. And this all sounds well and good, but the downside of Logan's Loophole is that you can only level up to level 30, and you might need those extra 20 levels to deal with the massive amount of different enemies in this game. Because boy oh boy, is there a lot. New Vegas could have been a great open world exploration game where you meet a bunch of people and do jobs for them in an endless cycle, but that'd just be Animal Crossing. Instead, New Vegas opts to increase my stress levels every 5 minutes with, hey look, a Deathclaw, hey look, a grenade, here, dodge a nuke. With all the variety in this game, it also means that every a-hole you gotta duke it out with also has a different method of sending you to the game over screen. So you need to play to your strengths, but most importantly, play to their weaknesses. Grenadiers are lethal at medium range and will likely fuck you up. But the grenade launchers don't reach super far and up close that it's gonna kamikaze the both of you. So sniper rifles are a fantastic counter, but melee characters will probably be reloading many quick saves. This game again has a massive variety of different enemies that all fight differently. Some rush you down, some stay back, some use sneaky tactics. But you, my friend, can counter these strengths and make them a weakness using your mind. Super mutants are terrifying and huge, but that also means a well-aimed shotgun can hit every single muscle fiber of their entire body. Or use a sniper rifle to spray them down at medium range, because again, they so damn wide. This system of weaknesses no longer makes the VAT system a aimbot for skillless babies, but instead a strategic, limb-crippling, middle-aged man euthanizer. Cazadors are terrifying with their 99 speed and agility that taking them on in an ADS fight is a stressful experience. But using VATs to target and break their wings makes them a flailing and very pathetic version of their former selves. Most enemies have some sort of body part which is super weak compared to the others and can be violated using the VAT system. Now, I'm not encouraging you to violate anyone, I'm just saying the option is there. Aside from VATs, the open world provides positional advantages to taking on opponents. VAT Scorpions are ruthless and in groups going to slaughter you, but they have one big weakness. Rocks. While they can tunnel underground and have a great 100-meter dash, they're only melee, so when you get a little bit of elevation, their little claws can't even touch you. Stupid bugs, grow wings, idiot. The open world also lets you use a bunch of other tactics, such as sniping everything in the head from 200 meters away, like a coward, or sneaking around and headshotting everything in the head, like a coward, or my personal favorite, running away from everything and crying like a little bitch, like a coward. The reason this matters is because in this game, you are a weak little piece of low testosterone and poor bone density. Or not, it kinda depends on your build. In Fallout 4, you get power armor and a minigun with no requirements to use either, like an hour into the game. While in New Vegas, you are likely still getting your ass handed to you by Cazadors and Deathclaws and weird wannabe Cyber Knights 20 hours into the game. Also, the enemies change constantly. This one breathes fire. How are you going to deal with that? And as you go along your journey, your friends, but most importantly, your enemies will change. The NPCs aren't just mindless obstacles, but real living pieces of ones and zeros. They have beliefs and motives for their actions, so when you piss them off, they're not going to be very welcoming anymore. This then affects every other part of the game, where your choices and consequences have real implications on the world. And if you're not ready for it, you're going to die. Like a lot. The Brotherhood of Steel all wear power armor and have Gatling laser rifles, so every time I have to deal with them, I use the advanced tactic of running away and crying for help like a little coward. But maybe you spec into energy weapons so you can get a few hits off before still dying. This means sometimes fighting isn't always the answer, and in New Vegas, sometimes the mouth is stronger than the gun. Combat is cool and great, and again, Bloodborne and the Exploding Hammer give me so many happy feelings. But what if the majority of AAA games weren't always about fighting? The charisma skill lets you bypass a lot of combat encounters simply by saying the right thing. This goes as far as the end of the game, where you can talk the ruthless, brutal tyrant Legate Lanius into ending a war. A mindless barbarian who wants nothing but blood and combat can be defeated using logic. And this is the best part about New Vegas. It offers so many ways to play, but also offers a different way to play. The speech route is something not seen in most AAA games, and if it is, it's definitely not to this extent. And in a world full of mindless shooters and hack and slashes where stats and perks don't really mean anything and every single enemy type fights the same and is killed pretty much exactly the same way, this kind of design is pretty cool. And there's a reason I'm still playing the game 10 years after its release. And I swear it has nothing to do with the robot hooker.
Please assume the position.